Is that saying? Yes, I think we are
Okay.
recording. So Anthony, welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to just welcome you to this project. It's a new project, as discussed, and it's looking at the forgotten generation. So
Yeah.
thank you for volunteering to come and talk to us in the early stages of this project. So we have a series of questions that we'd like to go through and talk about your early years right up until now. Beginning with, where were you born, sir?
Okay. So, I was born in Jamaica. Jamaica's got 14 parishes. I was born in Manchester, and I was brought up in Clarendon. And my sister was born in Kingston, Jamaica. And
Okay.
we lived and was brought up in a place called Rock River, referred to close to Rock River is a place called Diamond District. And inside there is a place we call Crab Gully. So they would refer to me as a Clarendon man, a bushman. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And the word diamond comes into four there. So were there any diamonds around?
there are stories. There are stories about a table that come up in the middle of the day, and what happened is that they tried to pull the table out, and they tie a rope around the table and get the cows to pull the table out, and then it went down and pulled the cows into the river, and the table never come back. That's when they talk about mermaid and those kind of stories. I don't know if they're just a fairy tale. If you Google it, it'll come up. The story that I'm telling you will have
really?
come up. Yeah, it will. They've got it, and it's not just in Crab Gully they say that, but in different parts of Jamaica. So that's the story I'm telling you. If you Google that, it'll come up and it will tell you that.
So what would you actually Google to get that?
They Google a Jamaica golden table. If you put that, you'll find that's a legitimate story, folk tale in Jamaica. As to the realism of it or not, I don't know, but I understand that that's a common story.
I like that. That's a good start.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, were you separated from your parents as a youngster?
Yeah, I mean, you asked me when I was born. I was born before Jamaica was made independent. So Jamaica was made independent August of 1962. I was born in January 1962.
Okay.
And, my parents, my mother went to work in Jamaica in my father's shop. My father owned a shop in Kingston, one in Manchester as well, which is why the location I've mentioned is so prevalent. And she worked in the shop there. But, in Jamaica, the poverty is such that when you require a job, you have to look around to where you can get it. What my mom and family did was send her to work in the shop, and she was able to go and do that to make life for herself. Obviously, people migrated to the UK. The place was known as London Street lined with gold. People believe that and still do, I think, up to today. And my mom had the opportunity to come to the UK. Her older sister was in the UK at the time, and she had the opportunity to do so. So as a consequence of that, she placed us with my grandparents, my grandmother, Catherine Blake, and my grandfather, William Blake. William and Catherine are heir to the throne right now in the UK, so you can understand that those names are...
I like that. Very good. Good.
Yeah.
And what age was that then for you and your mother?
Repeat that, please.
What age were you at that time when your mother left?
My mom left me 2 years after I was born, so I was quite young, and I actually didn't know her and didn't see her at all until I was nearly 13, 12 and a half. And wow. I didn't know she was my mother and recognize her to say this is my mother, because I actually grew up with my grandmother. So I grew up with my grandmother in Crab Gully where she lived, and that was my mother's home, not my father's. My father was a shop owner. In Jamaica, it may not be affluent or rich, but people would have seen him as affluent and rich because he owned the shop. But I grew up with my grandmother and my mother's side of the family, which is so I grew up with my grandmother and my grandfather. My cousins were in the house. There was like 8 or 10 of us. When I went back to Jamaica and saw the house, I can't believe all of us lived in such a small place.
So tell me, did you have links with your father in that time? So on a regular basis, or?
No, I have zero link with my father. They isolate him from my life. After my mother left, he was isolated from my life. And Jamaica is a rich culture, but part of the culture is that when you travel abroad and you have children, we are seen as cash cows. So subsequently, whoever we go to, my mother would send money back to Jamaica for them to provide care for us. And they would actually take the money. She would send clothes and they would take the clothes. So sometimes all those things happen and we didn't get it. I was very fortunate because when I was growing up with my grandmother, she was very caring and she looked after us. Sadly, when I was 8 years old, she died. She passed away. And as a result of her passing away, the whole family got broken up and we went to different places.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I subsequently ended up, me and my sister ended up living with my grand aunt, Cookie, her name Cookie, Ida Walters, and and commonly known in the community as Cookie. Because whenever she put a pot on, everybody in the community came and eat out of it.
Really?
Yeah. So it was like, one of these strange experience, and she provided care for us in the best way that she can. We had some struggles in that upbringing, and it was difficult living with her as a result of the experience that I have living with her. My mother, people wrote to my mother in the UK to say that, listen, your children are kind of at risk, and you need to come and look after them or you're going to lose them, so as a result of that, my mother came back and got us in 1974. So,
wow. So what age were you then?
Well, I was 12-year-old. And so I came to this country September 1974.
So sorry interrupting you there, but the question there at that time, at 12, and your mother left at 2, did you really know her?
No, I didn't know her at all. When she came back to Jamaica, I didn't actually know that she was my mother, but I recognized by spirit that she was, because there was a massive kind of impact when she arrived. I was living in a state that was not conducive to what she would have liked, nor I. And so it was not a good state. So fortunately, she didn't warn my family that she was coming back. She just turned up. And when she turned up, they were absolutely shocked that she had came and didn't know. I'm sure if they knew she was coming, they would have fixed me up properly. And
yes, I understand what you mean. So did she actually? Okay, I understand that. Did she actually come back with the intention of bringing you and your sister back with her at the time?
Yeah, my sister and I lived in with my grand aunt, and she came back with the intention of getting our passport and taking us back to the UK. She came equipped with clothes and with money and everything. She had planned it all from the UK. Nobody knew about it. So she came back, and then she gained our passport, took us to town, get the proper visas, get me through, and took us back to the UK with her.
Wow. So at that time, did your father intervene at all at any particular time while all this was happening?
No, my father, as I said earlier on in my life, was isolated from our lives. So there was nothing there, really, no connection with my father or my father's side of the family. you know,
Oh, okay.
which is another interesting story that I probably should write about.
Yeah, all right. We'll come to that. So you came back to with mother and your sister to England. Where about in England did you?
Well, we flew from Kingston Airport and we went via America and come to London. It's just strange because when you're in Jamaica, your image of England is completely different. It's colder, there's lined with gold and all these different things. So I was really surprised when I came and I was on the train coming from London and looked around and I said, Mom, what is grass doing here? I went, well, because they have grass here, you know. So it's funny, you know, because a friend of mine that I was in the Royal Air Force with named Courtney, and Courtney said that he has a similar type of experience where he came over and he looked and he saw the street lamp, and in the same turn, and he said to his dad, he says, how come them have moon and stick here?
That's actually interesting. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have so many different sort of description of what they see in comparison to Jamaica, the difference here. So, you know, when you reunited with your mother, was there like a bonding straight away, or was that after a while, or did it not happen at all, or what?
It's strange experience, really, because you come to somebody who you're living with and that person is supposed to be your mother. Now, I've never known anyone to say mom or dad, and those language never passed my lips. And so it was really difficult. So when I met my mother, I didn't call her mom because I didn't know her as mom, nor did I recognize her as my mother in that way. And it was difficult for me to call her mom because mom was a strange language. It wasn't something that I used. I know her as Sister Lou. Sister Lou is because my uncles and auntie refer to her, and in Jamaica there is a culture of respect. So you'll call your older people in the community, would call them aunties and uncles. Mas George, Papa, Mom. We don't refer to anybody by their first name. So therefore, it was Sister Lou. So Sister Lou is what I refer to her as. So I said, Sister Lou. So I call her. How long
did that go on for? Was that forever and a day, or did you eventually call her mom?
Yeah, that happened, but that happened after quite a while, because when I came over, myself and my sister called her Sister Lou, and we couldn't call her mom because we didn't know her as mom, and she was very good. She didn't force or compel us to call her mom. She responded to us when we said Sister Lou. So we call her Sister Lou, and she looked after us, and we call her Sister Lou. And so my stepfather, because she was married by then, she had 2 children. And my stepfather, when I came over, one day called my sister and I aside and said, "It's your mother?" And we said, "Yeah, we know." So they says, "Well, you can't call her Sister Lou. She's not your sister." So I said, "Yeah, but that's what we know her as." So he said, "You must call her mommy." So well, all right, but that's, we don't know her as mommy.
So that took a while, I suppose, to get. Did you eventually do that then?
Yeah, well, we started to practice it, and then we call her mom, and then I end up calling her Mumsy,
Okay.
I called her Mumsy. I lived with my mom for 6 years. I lived with my mom from 13, and I leave and joined the Royal Air Force when I was 19. So I've only really lived with her for 6 years in her house. And as a teenager, as you know, boys 16 and 17, I got about my business. So effectively, I was only with my mom for 3 years, because I came in and out the house when I reached 17, like me a big man. So.
And how did your stepdad view that? How did you get on with your stepdad?
I mean, it was all right. It was helpful, I think, for him, and helpful for my mother when we came over, because my younger brother is like 8 years younger than me. So effectively, we were able to provide support because she went out to work and he went out to work. So I think that was a massive help for them, because now they didn't have to probably get somebody to babysit or to look after. We were there as an older sibling and could actually accommodate that while they change over, because my mom worked nights and my stepdad worked not our days. So therefore they were able to switch over. But in between the switch over, we were there to capture that and they trust us and allow us to do that, which was all right. So I think it was helpful when we were like 13 and 14. When we reached about 16 and 17, it became a bit challenging. Teenager is a challenging years, and I'm not his child. And so therefore, some of those challenges that you have with teenagers, he has to embrace those, so I appreciate that it was a challenge for him and a pushback for him. So I heard him sometime having conversation with my mom, whether or not I should go out and find a flat or go and do something else. And
really,
those are, I think, was challenging for my mother, because my mom's only had me in the house for 3 years at that point. So it's gonna be difficult when you have the teenage pushback. So I understand that though.
How did you get on with your siblings? Did you say you had 2 other siblings when you came here?
Yeah, younger brothers. My younger brother, obviously, until we came over, didn't realize that we were around. I wasn't conscious about it because if he's 8 years my junior, you can imagine he was 4 or 5 year old when I came over. So his idea of his world had changed at that age, which I think to some degree must have impacted him psychologically. And I don't think he's at that age he's able to rationalize what has happened and how it's happened. So I think he lived with that for quite a while. And I think that effectively his experience, which he would have to share, and I don't know if he would know that and being able to unpack it. But I think that the impact on him would be, he presumed that he was the older brother. So he has this middle child syndrome. I sometimes smile because I see that him and my sister, who's just over a year younger than me, and because they're both middle child, they've got this kind of thing going on between them all the time, so. Oh,
that's really interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting because a lot of dynamics there. So, that's quite a riotous life you led in terms of growing up from your mother left, you say, right? Yeah. How do you think that impacted on your life to date? All the different experiences that you've had, grandma, granddad, then you're going on to your aunties, and then you're going to live with your mom with a stepdad, what sort of...
Yeah, I mean, it's informed. We have a rich culture in Jamaica, and I think it's really informative. Even though there's poverty, I think relationship is fundamental. And I realize that the relationship you have in Jamaica is not the same as you have in the UK. And this is primarily because when I came to the UK, it was difficult for me to live inside of a house. In Jamaica, your life is lived outdoors. You sleep indoors, your life is lived outdoors. In the UK, you sleep indoors and your life is lived out indoors, and you watch television and you socialize and you go from one house into another house to visit people. You don't like visit people on the street and everything like that. So in the summer, I would play out, and in the winter, we hibernate in this country. And it was difficult for me at first. For the first 2 or 3 years, I struggled because I was accustomed to going outside. My life was outside, not inside a house. So it was very, very difficult for me to get accustomed to living inside the house,
What about your schooling then? What was the difference, the main difference that you experienced?
Massive educational difference. When I came over from Jamaica, I was like 13-year-old, 12 and a half, nearly 13-year-old. My education was 5th form or 6th form when I came over. I think they have a lot of problem with me at school because my Jamaican accent, as you can still hear now, was very, very strong. And they spent a lot of time trying to give me elocution lesson, how to speak English properly. But my education standard was higher than everybody in the class. Any maths or anything you give me, I could go through it because Jamaican education standard was very high. So for 3 years, I did nothing at school. I'd absolutely stopped. I stopped studying because anything they put in front of me, I could do it. But the problem is, they said to me they can't progress me into higher classes because I can't speak the English properly. So they get a teacher separately and put me in a class with a teacher to teach me how to speak English rather than teach me how to study my lessons.
Really?
That's all I had, nothing else. They give me nothing else to do. I had no lessons to do. I sit down in class bored. I sit down there looking at people because they're not giving me, because anything they give me the maths, and within a couple of minutes I get it done. And in the end, I start to write my own books and do my own studies because they weren't giving me anything to do.
Sure. I mean, you know, you would have considered that they could have given you something more challenging, because they must have had more challenging things to give you, right up to, say, GCSE or whatever they used to call it in them days.
No, CSE. It used to be the CSE, and they wouldn't give me any CSE work to do because they felt that I can't speak the language. That was the reason that they gave me. And effectively, they separated one teacher. I remember them putting me in class, and I remember the teacher trying to struggle to teach me to speak English. You have to say this, say, start, do not say this like this. So what you say? No, no, don't say what you say. What are you saying? What you say? What are you saying? I said, okay. And I couldn't get what I said, listen to me, right? I speak Jamaica, I'm from Jamaica, my language. And I have that at school. When I joined the Air Force, it was the same thing. When I leave the Air Force and work at Birmingham Airport, it was the same thing. And people always trying to correct my Jamaican accent. And I said to them, I don't speak any other accent because I'm from Jamaica, so I speak Jamaican accent. And I'm very clear about that. And when people speak to me, I am kind of one of these people. I got my self-esteem and I'm strong enough in confidence to tell them, say, I don't partial what you say, this is how I speak. So I don't want to speak is spokey, because when I start to speak English, you criticize me, say I'm not speaking it properly. When I speak Jamaican, you know, I say Jamaican. So you can't criticize me for speaking Jamaican because you know it's Jamaican. So when I start to speak English or middle class English, you can criticize me because I got my words wrong. I'm saying EDs, I'm not missing out H's, I'm saying I's, I'm saying this. That's middle class English language. That's not Jamaican language. The way I was brought up to speak. Now I can write properly. And I can write, but they said sometimes my grammar is not correct. But I said, it's not my language. You taught me to write like this, so all right. If you want me to speak or write in a different way, I would learn that too. You understand? So, yes. So that's how it is. So I don't try to be something I'm not. I am confident in the person that I am, and I'm confident in the way that I speak. And if I speak is spokey, that's because that's how I'm doing it.
So tell me, how much do you think your childhood experience has influenced your adult life now?
My grandmother was massively influencing my life, and I was brought up with her from age 2, and she died at age 8. 1970 she died. She was 54-year-old. She was a phenomenal woman. She comes from the line of Winters. Her maiden name is Winter. Strong background, strong woman. Kate Blake, they call her. And she was very assertive, as is my mother. And my confidence, I think, comes mainly from my grandmother, my grand aunt, and my mother are the major influence in my life. And it's effectively my character and my personality is formed by those individuals in my life with very strong character and personality, and they were well driven. And so I pick up all of those things, and I'm like that because they form my character, my personality, my outlook on life is formed by that. My grandmother was very intuitive, and far as she's concerned, there is no barrier in life that can prevent or stop you. My grand aunt was very kind. She cooked for the community. She could not give enough. And I find that I need to do that. So I built my life around trying to give or trying to help or trying to support. And then my mother was formative. She says, go to the bank and borrow everything they'll give you and do what you need to do with it. Because so my mother was driven in that way. And all of those personalities and characters, if you know me and stick around me long enough, you will see those characters and personality playing out in what I do and how I do it.
Fantastic, really good to hear. So you talked about the RAF, I believe, the Royal Air Force?
That's correct, yeah.
So what made you join the Royal Air Force, as I say, opposing to the Army or the Navy, you know?
I think, you know, it's funny, but I went to the CIO and joined the Royal Air Force because the Royal Air Force came to my school when I was like 16, 17-year-old. I came to the school and did a presentation, which I was quite impressed with. And I went to join the Air Force when I was 18, but my mom was afraid I'm getting shot or killed, so she stopped it. I was gonna join as a flight line mechanic. Don't know if you remember them, and in engineering because I wanted to be a mechanic. But she stopped me from doing that. When I reached 19, I went and re-signed back up because I could sign the paper myself at 18. Okay. So I went and signed up at 18 to join. But at the time, the only vacancy they had was a supplier. And they got these guys to persuade me to join as a supplier. And then they said to me after 18 months or so, I can then sign up as a mechanic. That didn't happen, but I found that actually logistics is phenomenal trade if you use it properly. And my business acumen and knowledge and the way that I operate in business now because of my skills in logistics, which is supply and demand. And it doesn't matter what you give me, I can convert it into something because my knowledge of supply and demand is next level.
All right. Okay. We'll come on to that hopefully later.
Yeah.
I'm just interested in the career of in the Royal Air Force. How was that?
I joined the Royal Air Force and it was a phenomenal experience. You joined at the time when racism was very high and people call you Chalky and you know, monkey and all kind of different things. You know, I came in once to find put WOG on my door, WOG, paint it with the you know, the shaving screen on your door. They've got all things going on. So it was kind of really kind of a challenging experience joining the Air Force and maintaining yourself. When I say maintain yourself, I mean, you know, as a Jamaican people is hot-headed and I'm not isolated from that. So I was very kind of hot-headed when I was younger, and when people put those things or call me different names, I was kind of very annoyed, put it that way, and my response wasn't very positive. So you know, I had to manage those kind of issues both verbally and everything. I was ready to fight everybody and anybody that come in front of me. I don't care what size you are. I was ready to fight because in my opinion, if you beat me, I'll come back after I heal up and come and beat you too. And if you don't kill me, then it's all right. They give me a chance to come back and beat you.
So did that get you into any particular trouble in terms of, you know, it's a military structure, isn't it? So if you fight or anything like that, you get in trouble.
That's right. I was very fortunate, I would say, because I remember a corporal came to me once and told me to do something. And as I said, when I was younger, I was very arrogant, and arrogance don't take you nowhere in the military trade. So I say to the corporal, I'm not doing what you asked me to do. So he said, I'm a corporal and you are an SAC and you will do what I tell you to do. So I said to him, listen to me, let me just be clear with you. As I said to you, I come from a very assertive family background. So I said to him, listen, you're a corporal, I understand that. And I am an SAC and I understand that. But here's what I do. I haven't given you power to manage me. I joined the Air Force, but I haven't given you any authority. You have authority as a corporal. If what you say to me, I don't want to do, what do you do? So he's going to put me in the guard room. So I said, I am willing to accept the consequences. So now I'm telling you, I'm not doing what you tell me to do. So you now need to exercise what you can do, because that's all you can do to me. You can't do nothing else. You can't beat me. You're not my parents. You can't beat me. You're not my mother. You're not my father. You can't beat me. So you can put me in a guard room because that's your authority. So I'm ready to go in the guard room. So do what you want to do, but I'm not doing it.
What up next?
In walk off, Vix.
Well, listen, I assume you didn't. Did you change? You didn't carry on with that particular attitude throughout, did you?
Throughout, I haven't changed, even though I'm the same type of personality. If somebody ramp with me, you know, you gotta be able. I don't like to undermine authority or people, and I respect that he has a job to do. But if it's something, if you ask me to do something, I went to I'm in the trade that I am right now. Somebody tried to take me to court, and they have take me to the solicitors, and the solicitor said, if I don't do what the other party was asking me to do, then the court will hold me in contempt. And if they hold you in contempt, they'll put me into prison. So I said to them, let me just be clear with you, right? My starting point is this. I'm not going to do it. That's the starting point. And the solicitor, that's my solicitor talking to me, said to me, I need to do it. And I said to him, I am not going to do it. So let me be clear with you. I am not going to do it. So what's the next step? The court will hold you in contempt. I said, what will happen after that? They'll put you into jail. I said, fine. So I am willing to take the consequences. So what's going to happen after that? They says, well, if you're not, they will compel you to do it. I said, but they can't, because I'm not doing what they're going to ask me to do. So if I am not doing it, what is the next step? They'll keep you in jail. I said, keep me there. I am ready to go to jail and I will stay there. I am not doing it.
So overall, then, how would you sum up your career in the Air Force? How long did you stay in the Air Force, and how would you say that was for you?
15 years. It's a phenomenal experience, and I would recommend it to anyone. Both indigenous race, people from this country needs to go into the Air Force or the Army or the Navy, because the military experience, I think, is a phenomenal experience. It change and shape your experience of life. It change how you see people, how you respond, how you react, your professionalism. It does have a massive impact. And after having to serve the country and serve other people, and having the comradeship of people around you, linking with those people and connecting with them is an experience, I think, that actually shaped my life and shaped who I am. So I think it's actually an experience that I wouldn't have given up and I wouldn't have wanted to miss. The people I've connected with, both white and black and Asian, those people are phenomenal and have a solid impact in terms of me shaping my future and shaping my life. So yeah, it's been a great experience for me.
Fantastic. So I believe a part of that experience was traveling also?
Yes, I traveled. I lived in Germany for a while. I got married in Germany, got my children. My first daughter was born in Germany. I traveled to the Falkland Islands, and I spent 2 tours in the Falkland Islands, and Goose Green, yeah, and Mount Alice was my second tour, and I spent a little time in Mount Stanley as well. And I went down, and when I first went down there, the airport didn't exist, so we went down on the ship. Yeah.
Wow. And how long did that take you to get down on the ship?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. Yeah.
So there's an Air Force man traveling on the ship. What was that like?
It was a different experience. It was washing pots to keep you busy.
Okay.
Dealing with a rough stomach for about 2 or 3 days initially.
Okay.
So that was a different type of experience.
That's good. So you've left and you've now set up your own business, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, I leave the Royal Air Force, and they gave you some money when you leave. So what I did was I bought a house. I bought not the house I was living in. I had a mortgage on the house I was living in, but I used the money and invested in a house because, once again, my mom was very intuitive. What she said is, before you get anything, if you get in finances, plan for it. So I did that, and I planned to buy a house and rent it out. So I bought a house, rent it out. I still own it to this day, and invest that money straight into the house. I use the money from the house and send my children to private school. Still survived, and the money that I had and the work that I had. Then I went to join. I did some work in for the prison service. I was a prisoner custody officer, taking people to court, and a court officer, and doing all of that thing. Then I leave. I went and worked for Key Catering. Did some catering work. Didn't really get on with that, so I went to Birmingham Airport and worked for an airline, Maersk Air Limited. And when I worked for them for a while, then they did an MBO, which is a management buyout, and changed the name of the company to a name was more conducive to them. So after about 12 months, the airline crashed, and most people were made redundant. I was they actually made me the engineering purchasing manager for the old airline, but what I was doing for them, trading with Canada Air, training with France, trading with quite a lot of things going on at the time. Used to sign off like 20,000 pounds of invoices per day. That was on my desk. So it was a phenomenal job. I really liked it.
I guess at that time, your experience in the Air Force was really kicking in then at that time, doing that kind of work, I would imagine.
It was, yeah. It was, it was civil airline, but it was the principle was effectively the same. And having the Air Force backing and experience and knowledge and discipline helped me in terms of managing the service and managing the guys that was working for me. I have quite a few departments working for me, and so I had the management principles that I implemented there. I had a lot of management training, so I had these departments working for me, reporting to me. And then obviously the airline run a board, and I sat on the board and gave a report in terms of the financial implications for managing the whole equipment and all the items in the service. So I was managing all of those things. When the airline crashed, they kept me on for about a month because everybody else was made redundant, but they had to keep me because I was managing the equipment and the asset for the company. So all the asset for the company was sold. Some of it took to a company called Bombardier in Canada. So the guy came over and I went through the whole inventory and portfolio. So I was managing all of those things. So they kept me on for 3 months to manage all of the airline and all of the stuff that needed to be sold.
Wow.
So once that was out the way, I then set up a business because I thought I'm not going to go and work for anybody else. So I set up a business in health and social care. Yeah. And then that was in children's services.
Wow.
Because my wife and I picked up and was running we did fostering. So it was natural for me to just look at something that I believed that I could do. So I sold my house, not sold it, but I mortgaged the house that I was living in, use it as a children's home and buy another house, and then use that seed money to create the business, which everybody said to me was a massive risk considering I wasn't from social care background. But I still did it because, as I said to you earlier, in terms of logistics, we are next level. We can take any material, anything, and convert it into business. Just give me the product. Yeah. If you give me a product, I don't need to understand the product. I just need to understand that I can make it into a business. So you can do that in logistics. So no matter what product you give me, I can convert it into a business.
Excellent, excellent. So
as a result of that, that's why I run a school. I've never worked in a school, but I've started open and I'm running a school. And I run health and social care in adult services. I've never worked in those elements, but I can run them and I'm in charge of them and they're running. And the children's services, never work in residential care, never work with offset CQC, but I've done them not because I worked in them, but because of my logistic knowledge.
Excellent. So what's your school called?
Newbury School.
Newbury School. And what sort of children do you cater for in that school?
We cater for children with secondary, KS3, KS4, KS5, key stage 3, that is secondary education. And we can cater for anyone. Primarily, children who are looked after are not well accepted in school or they farm them out. So when we create our independent school, it was the intention that children who are looked after by social services are people who are excluded from school, that we open up our door to them and get them in. So they come into us and we open up the door and we let them into our school. We have an ed teacher and we have teachers there that provide the support and educational support for them and manage them. That's what we do.
So these children are excluded from mainstream school. Is that what you're saying?
They're excluded from mainstream school. Yeah. And if they're at risk of exclusion, are they excluded? Are some people have homeschooling and then don't want to go back into the mainstream school? We open up our door and we take them in. Or if they have special educational needs, we'll take them in as well and look after them. And we provide the support and wrap a package, educational support package around them, and we equip them and deliver it. And we have been doing that now since 2017.
Excellent, excellent. Question: your experience in life from start to finish is quite varied.
It is.
Do you ever pass on any of your early years to your children in terms of, you know, having a conversation? This is how I grew up, Dad. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, but when I was younger, and when I say younger, when I have children, part of my ethos was to bring them up like me. So I initially, we had in the experience I draw your attention to is that we have the dishwasher in the kitchen. And what we say is that the children need to you need to wash up the dishes because you need to learn the principle of making sure that you look after yourself, you wash up after yourself. Having dishwasher just make you lazy. So we did that for about a year or two. And then we realized something. I think we sat down one day and it really hit us that actually in my generation, we didn't have, in Jamaica, you didn't have washing machine. We go to the river and we have a clapper and we beat the clothes and we wash and lock and then hang the clothes on the racks to dry, put it in the basket and go back home with it on your head. And so when I came over here, we used to wash, we didn't have washing machine, we wash in the bath. We go in the bath and we scrub and you have the thick soap and you scrub and you wash and you hang it up on outside on the veranda or outside on the washing line. Or in the winter, you hang it over beside the fire. You used to have a oil fire and we used to hang it over there. And that was our experience. And I realized something, that our children are in a different generation. They're equipped and these things are not for us, it's for them. So we then decide, do you know something? We need to allow our children to live in their generation and not in our generation. So I teach them and tell them about my history, my past. I am sure they do not understand it. I'm sure they don't understand our journey and the things that shape me and impact me. They don't understand that because they have to drive their own journey and they have to have their own experiences. So I think to some degree, they'll have the knowledge that Dad has said this and Dad used. And when they go out and listen to people, they'll go, actually, my dad has that experience. My dad knows this, my dad, but they won't know it themselves because their experience is completely different from mine. So I don't expect them to live through my experience, but I do try to impart my knowledge to them.
Interesting. Have they ever been back to your birth land, your children?
Yeah, man, I take them there to make them experience life. And the frightening, I will share this one experience with you. I took them back, all three of them. I got 3 biological children, and I have many foster children. We looked after about 60 foster children. So
sorry, was that 6 or 60?
60. Yeah.
Wow.
So we looked after about 60 foster children. So I got 3 biological children. I took them to Jamaica with me, and we stopped with their granddad, and we were in the house, and I said to them, and you know, you need to experience this. So I went and paid and bought a goat, and we came home and they were playing with the goat, and they were playing with the goat, and then in the afternoon we tie up the goat and kill the goat and cook him. Up to today, they keep talking about it. They run inside and hide. And I said that
you as a youngster, that's what you were used to, right?
It was just like, it was natural. That's what we naturally do. And it didn't mean anything. In fact, they actually taught me that it wasn't natural because I went over there and I did what was natural to me. But they saw it and their experience, and they're recalling that as adult now because they're in their 30s now. And they're telling me, and they're relaying the story back to me and says that was a challenging experience for them because they've never seen anything like that. And we had to go to the morning and you killed them.
Oh, great. So tell me, what message and advice would you like to pass on to any of the children, really, especially those ones who sort of tread the same path or similar path to yours, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I strive for is education. Education is fundamental in anything we do. And you have to have knowledge to shape your future. If you ignore your past and ignore your history and ignore who you are, then there's no way you can shape the future. You can't defend yourself being somebody else. You have to defend yourself being you. And you can't be you unless you understand your history. So education is fundamental. It's really important in terms of striving forward. And nowadays, what I've discovered is that you will find, there's a song that says, you cannot sing the Lord's song in a strange land. And that's a powerful song if you think about it. And what I want you to think about with that is that I went to church and they were singing the song, and they sing nice worship song. And when they sing those nice worship songs, like, you think to yourself, this is a nice worship song, and it is nice in the white churches or the mixed white churches. And then I had the opportunity to go to a black church and they were singing a song. And what I realized and connected to was that there was two different experiences and they were singing the same song. But there was two different experiences from those two. The same song came out differently. And I begin to understand that actually I need to embrace my history and who I am. Because what happened is that I grow old differently. Me growing old as a black person is not the same as growing old as a white person or an Asian person. So I will have things that's happening to me physically that I can embrace in another black person that won't happen in a white person. And sometimes a lot of people get stressed because they're trying to grow old as another race and not who they are. They get fat, they put on weight in different places. If you're a black woman, you put on weight in a different way. And if you're a white woman, you put on weight in a different way. And you got your hair is different and you have to do different things to shape your looks and everything. You cannot shape yourself as another race when you're growing old. You have to shape yourself who you are. And they get stressed and you have mental issues because you're trying to be something that God didn't create you to be. Wow. You sing and worship out of the experience that you're going through, not out of somebody else's experience. So they have this thing they call it white privilege. Mm-hmm. If I'm a white person and I go out the road in America, I don't have to worry about getting attacked. But if I'm a black person, I have to think about whether or not the police are going to stop me. Right now in this country, I got stopped 2 or 3 times because I was driving a posh car and they checked me up and said that they think I was on drugs because I live in Sutton Coldfield and that I've got a house. They've done that to me in this country. I can't imagine the experience of them in America in terms of what they're going through. Now, when you go to church in America as a black person, you sing a worship song. When you say, God protect me, as a black person, there is some experience and knowledge there that you're singing out of. When you say, God protect me as a white person, you sing the same song, but it's got 2 different meanings.
Wow. That's very interesting. Very interesting. I've not heard anyone actually put it that way before, but it's a very interesting way of unpacking it, dissecting it. So people listening to you may look at themselves differently, having heard what you've just said. What has been your experience as a black person living in England then?
England is a strange place. One of the things that I found in Jamaica is that I look around me and there was all black people. So if I go to the bank, there was black people. On television, there's black people. And I go to all institutions and the teachers were black. And any institution I go to, they were black. And so subsequently, I didn't see any difference in the race around me. When I come to England, the teachers are white, the doctors are white, the dentist is Asian, yeah, and certain cultures, but there was never ever a black person in a position of influence or a place of authority. Anything to do with authority and management, directorship, a position of ownership, we were not in there. And so I discovered that in England, that I was doomed to become a factory worker. When I was leaving school, I went to Sutton Coldfield Technical College to learn engineering. I was told when I was in the course that the person who have the top mark in there will have the primary choice of a job. And you could become a draft technician, which is what I wanted to do. So a draft technician was the position there. I worked very hard. I came top of the class. They get the career person in, and they put me there, and it was a woman, gave me all factory jobs. And I said, no, I don't want them. Is that all you have? And
really?
I left out. The second person behind me was a white person. Now, I didn't know this, but 2 weeks after leaving there, and I said, I don't want none of your jobs if that's all you have to give me. I'll go and find a job myself. So I did. 2 weeks after leaving, I met the guy. He was a draft technician. I said, how did you get that? He got it straight after I left out the room. The woman gave him the job that I was supposed to have because I was Black.
Wow.
So in this country, even when I leave the Air Force, I went to Nottingham for a job. I spoke to the guy, explained to him my experience. By then I had done my law degree and it was in a legal field. And I went down to the guy virtually gave me the job on the phone. I can't understand why he didn't know I was Black because my accent is very strong. So I went down to Nottingham and he said to me, the lady at the reception said to me, are you Anthony Walters? And I said, yes. Are you sure you're Anthony Walters? I said, yes.
Did they actually ask you, are you sure?
I am sure I'm Anthony Walters. And I said, yes. So they went back, spoke to the guy. They kept me for 20 minutes. And the guy, a white guy came out, he looked at me and said, I'm sorry, but the position is full. I drive all the way to Nottingham to be told that. Yeah.
Wow.
So the experience in this country is that, you know, the color of your skin will prevent you from functioning and moving forward. However, what I understand is this, is that you shouldn't be naive about how you function and what you do, because we are living in a country that is 95% white people. And it says, when you're in Rome, do what the Romans do. Why are we fighting against the fact that people see us as Black people and that's a perception that we are not adequate to manage our own life, be skilled enough to function at a manager's level or a director level? Why are we fighting against that? We don't need to fight against that. We need to be educated and we need to do the things that we need to do to progress ourselves. It is our responsibility and nobody else's. And there is the fact that you can point fingers and blame people. But first of all, I always say this, Don, when you point at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointed back at you, 1 pointing at the person and 1 pointing at God. So who are you blaming?
Wow, very, very interesting. Very, very fundamental, that one. Tell me, you mentioned education and it's key, but you mentioned law degree.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So did you say you've got a law degree?
That's right, yeah, I study law.
Wow, that's really interesting. And you studied it, obviously, got the degree, and you did not pursue it?
I chose to do business in children's services. I had a job, you know, I had a job at Wolverhampton and in a law firm. And I remember driving up the motorway. I started the children's home and I had a job in Cannock doing the same job I was doing in the Air Force. I was in charge of a warehouse that was running aircraft parts. Very, very affluent. The guy had a boat in Australia. He's got a place in France, and he asked me to look after his oil portfolio. Even I was shocked because he gave me a key to his oil thing when I walked in. And,
wow.
And I said to myself, God, what are you doing to me? So I think to myself, okay, what do I do? I spoke to him and I said, I'll do 2 days a week for you. And he agreed. And I spoke to the law firm in Wolverhampton and I said, I'll do 2 days for you. And they agreed. And then I had 1 day to do my own business and set that up.
No, really?
Yeah, so I thought this is brilliant. I had it all set up. So I was driving up the motorway and the voice of God spoke to me, Don, and God said to me, whose vision are you serving? That was very clear to me. And I was driving up and I was almost at junction 10. I drove up the motorway, turn off at junction 10, go in and turn back home. And I turned back home because I needed to start my business and run it full time. And I understand that I have no income coming in. I have 2 mortgages that I had to pay, but I made a decision that I wasn't going to go in the law firm. I phoned them, I spoke to them, and they said to me, when you're ready to come, you can come. And I said, okay, no problem. And I phoned the guy in Cannock and I said to him, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go into my business. That's what I did. I made a decision on that morning as a result.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Isn't that amazing? You know, given 3 choices like that, and you got to call it, get on and do your own thing. And how have you felt? How do you feel, pursued your own business now?
I think that a guy asked me a question once, and it was a white guy from Birmingham, and it says to me, what's your greatest fear? Having set up the home, which I did, and he came to me and the home was empty and I didn't have any children in it, and I have to wait. He said, is known a lot of people who set up the business and got this far, waited for children to come in, but because of the children not coming in and money not coming in, then they go broke. So he says to me, what's your greatest fear? And I sat and thought about it. And I said, my greatest fear is to be successful. Because failure is a road that I'm accustomed to. When you fail, you start again. When you fall down, you get up and start again. When you try to do something, you don't succeed. But have we ever been in the land of success where you are successful in what you're doing to the limit that you want to be? That's a strange place to be. So the land of success was my greatest fear. But what I understood, that when I started the business, it wasn't enough to want to start a business. It wasn't enough to be committed to it. You have to be more than committed. It's one thing to say, I'm going to do a bungee jump. But when you put on the harness and you stop at the cliff edge to jump, that's a different experience. It's no longer, I'm going to do it. I want to do it. And put the clothes on. No, you're going to jump and leap. Take that leap. How are you going to do it or not? And that's what happened with me in business. I came to the point where a decision had to be made. I've done all of the work. I put everything together. I got it registered. Now, I was at the precipice where if I continue beyond this point, I'm going to be broke. That means they're going to repossess my house. They're going to take everything from me. I have no other resources to rely on. So I could stop it at that point, or I could go beyond that, because once you take the leap, you can't come back. That's where I was at. So then I decided I needed to take the leap. I needed to jump. That means I had no protection. I can't climb back up. I'm done. If I don't succeed now, there's no going back up.
Wow.
So that's where I was at. So when you are committed to do something, commitment is not enough. You have to jump.
Yes, I get that. Absolutely fantastic. You know, with this project, which is to help people like yourself to tell, you know, your experience. And I hope this has been a good experience for you, talking like you talk, because talking is essential, right? Writing is essential, talking is essential, as long as you do one or even both of them. So being able to talk to you and share this, I hope this has been something that, you know, you've seen as benefit.
It's a benefit, I think, to have a platform to share your experience and your history. And, you know, everyone's history is completely different and everyone's journey is different. And, you know, in the old times, they used to call it your pilgrimage. So you go in your pilgrimage, you offer different things. And there's something in the Bible, they call it the place of Gilgal. That's where the Israelis, they take up, the Hebrews, they take up the stone and they leave it there when they leave Egypt. And it says, put this stone down. So when the children ask you, you can tell them what it was about. And every single one of us have got those Gilgal moments. There are moments in our life that is fundamental that we need to share and pass on. It could be to your children or it could be to somebody else. There are some fundamental points in our life that is going to help somebody else. And we don't know exactly where those Gilgal moments are, but if we talk and you create a forum where we can share historically what has happened in our life and how we have come through them, I believe it will help somebody. So some of those moments in our life that we share, and we find different forums to share it, different places to share it. I think you creating this forum is great because it gives an opportunity to share. And if people listen and hear one of the stories or one of your moment or one of your Gilgal moment and take it on board and shape and change your life, it would have been worth it.
Well, you know what? Absolutely fantastic interviewing you today, because there's so many aspects of your life. Anybody listening to this, right? Anybody, I defy anyone not to get something from your journey that you've taken us on today. So I want to say a massive thank you for participating in this. Yeah. And I'm going to put it out there so others can listen to it, and I'm sure they'll get something from it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, then. So we'll talk another time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.